Welcome to Turn Illness into Brilliance, where we turn problem into solution and illness into the brilliance that is unique to you. Quantum Therapeutics offers solution for C-PTSD, PTSD, and dissociation. In this journey with us, we hope to reignite your curiosity around what is possible. So welcome, welcome, welcome to Turn Illness into Brilliance. So I want to welcome everyone to Turn Illness into Brilliance. This is our very first episode of this podcast, and it's been a long time coming. And we're excited to dive into, right, what PTSD really is and how we can choose to get out of that. In our journey, both personal and as a collective, we have begun to understand that, right, a lot of what the world sees as illness is truly your brilliance upside down, right, and our strive to be normal. And today, we're going to start unraveling a little bit of that. And as we step into this process, I want to introduce Jessica, right? Jessica is, well, you tell them who you are and why you're here.
I'm a living proof of the effectiveness of quantum therapeutics. I'm a practitioner, I'm a mom, I make music, I'm a friend, and I'm super excited to be here today because linking arms like we are in this conversation and reaching out to you all with, what we're here to share is a really important piece. We all need each other. We're interdependent beings, and the conversation that we're going to have and the conversations that will follow are needed because a lot of folks are suffering, and I did for decades. Until I did quantum therapeutics, I was tangled up in all kinds of difficulties and symptoms, and it showed me the capacity of my superpowers, that my symptoms, or what was labeled as my illness, was actually the source of what I could use to get better. And so I'm just super excited to be here and have these conversations and start, linking arms with all of you as well.
Yeah, super excited that we're here and that we've gotten through all the technology and all the pieces that get in the way every time we choose to sit down. And I think that, one of the foundational pieces of quantum therapeutics is the idea of dissociation. And, in my personal experience, my final psychiatrist, just waved his arm at me and said, hey, I don't know how to help you any further, but what I am seeing and recognizing is you're not in there. And at that point in time, I asked him, I was like, what does that mean? And he said, I don't really know. So that question has literally taken me around the world to study with the Waiata in New Zealand, the Native Americans, the tribal peoples in Mexico, and in the end, right, that has become a foundational piece for quantum therapeutics, right? Quantum therapeutics, we have really realized in that dissociation in action is an out-of-body experience, right? An out-of-body experience, which in most traditions is truly a superpower, right? Versus inhibition or a disorder, right? Being able to choose to leave our bodies gives us the opportunity to astral travel, quantum jump, and we also give adults the idea that in those out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, right, we gain a lot of insight to possibility and what is out there outside of what we see here today.
You know, I actually used to have grand mal seizure epilepsy, and to me, that is like dissociation to the nth degree, like the maximum capacity dissociation. Now, whether I was leaving my body through that from a head injury or why I had the seizures, maybe I'll find out in the next life. But I don't have them anymore. And it really, learning about that, in essence, we're astral traveling when we dissociate or seize, or there may even be other actions that we're dissociating. The essence of who we are is leaving our body in order to get through whatever's happening around us. In learning that, it changed my whole concept of all the years of having seizures, and that it just affirmed me that I was doing that in a brilliant way to get through what was happening.
Well, and I think we have to, in a very practical way, understand that what is leaving, right? Our astral body is what is leaving. That is a real tangible thing. When somebody astral projects, they're projecting their astral body to another place. People can see them, right? When we witness seeing a spirit or, a ghost, right? We're witnessing somebody's astral body, right? Our astral body is what separates from our physical body for any of that to happen. Now, what's interesting with the seizure piece, right, is we have so many clients coming in with very similar activity. Some call them drop attacks, where they're just like, dropping into a complete limp, trance-like state, or they're shorting out, right, which is a full-blown seizure. And, for myself, in my personal experience, it went from the spectrum. Right? The longer it was denied, the less of my astral body and life force was retained, right? The more my brain was shorting out, right? And so as a person starts doing the integration, starts learning to reoccupy our body in a real legitimate way. Now that's different than grounding. Right? Aligning our astral body with our physical body is different than grounding. It's not an idea. It's taking back over the driver's seat of our body. And as we work through this process, we have to understand that the corpus callosum is the control room of all that you are, right? It's the control room of all that you are, that band of neural pathway that goes from left and right brain that is grasping information from our intuition, our eyes, and our ears, right? And if we are over there, our access to all that makes us amazing is disconnected and dissociated, right? Now, another piece to that is what happens if the first time you exit your body, you're 6 months old or a year, right? What if you don't even know you're doing it, right? All you're doing is escaping the trauma of the moment, right? You're not thinking about repercussions. You're not thinking about the consequences after. You're thinking about surviving that moment. So to be able to actually exit the physical trauma, right, is amazingly brilliant, right? It's like now learning how to be human is why we're here, and how to reoccupy this body and in all of its glory, right? Attaching all the systems back into integrity, right? And that is practical. It's like you're plugging in to the universal internet, right? And you can't do that if all of your systems are not working in unison. And that can't happen if you're over there and not here. And that's a very practical exercise that we have to incorporate into our lives. That's not something wrong with you. That's a new and different learning about how to operate.
Because truly through quantum therapeutics, I learned how to leave my body on purpose in order to go back and get my younger self and give her the information she needed, get the information I needed from her, give her what she needed. And I also learned how to, in day-to-day life, stay in my body. So it was so empowering.
Well, it is, right? When we think about okay, we've got this body, all that this body meant to me prior to this learning and connecting the dots around this was being a human hurt. It was hard. I didn't trust anyone. I was in a ball most of the time, or I was going to come out scratching like a cat, right? And the balance between those two was not there at all. So learning how to be here and acting out of conscious awareness, right, versus reaction is our step towards freedom, one of them, right? And none of that can happen. Now, what's really cool as I look back is I was studying to teach meditation with Deepak Chopra, and had degrees in metaphysics and all these things, and I was still getting triggered, right? So hopping back in time to, wait a minute, is astral travel, is that possible without an out-of-body experience? No. Is quantum jumping possible without an out-of-body experience? No. Is transcendental meditation possible without an out-of-body experience? No. Can I do that with a thought? Yes. Is that a superpower? Yes, if it's not a reaction. So first, we must reclaim our bodies, because in all your brilliance, you chose to be a human this go round, right? You are here on purpose as a divine human, and being fully human can't happen if you're not in your body, right? So in our next segment, we're going to really dive into how to do that. We're going to walk you through reclaiming your body, being able to feel the pulse in your toes, being able to look out of your eyeballs, maybe for the first time. I know for myself, my first near-death experience, I was 6 months old, right? I had no idea that the rest of the world couldn't see themselves sitting in a room hanging out with people, right? I didn't know that. Right? So the first time in that astral travel class, she walked us into our bodies, and I was looking out of my eyes for the first time and feeling my feet, which were normally numb. Game changer.
When you would dissociate, could you choose were you choosing where you were in the room or where you were, period? Or at times would you be out of your body and not in
No, it was
control of where you
absolutely
went?
reactionary. It was completely reactionary. Most often, in my adult remembrance, I was watching. From some perspective, I was watching my body go through trauma, right? And when I am aware of myself doing it now, I'm usually over here, right? And I'm like, okay, come back in, let's reclaim this body. You can't be brilliant if you're not attached to your computer system, which is this body, right? Being able to eat like a normal person, being able to go to the grocery store like a normal person. We can't do that. We can't operate if we're not in our bodies. Another piece as well, like if your hands and feet are numb, you're not in there, and you probably haven't been for a long time.
It's like being out in the interwebs or the internet and not using your computer phone or your laptop or whatever is here that can interact.
Well, or being able to download something and make it useful, right? It's kind of like you may know a bunch of stuff, but like, how is that affecting your life? It can't if you're not being human, right? And our whole journey here is to be fully realized human, walking this earth, right? In your fully developed, fully realized being, yeah? And wearing your magic, right? In the good of all that you touch.
Because I tell you what, not being in your body, at least for some, I would think, makes it hard to eat or do much of anything in your other systems of your being.
Yeah, we can't eat, we can't think, we're distracted, we're frazzled feeling, we're overwhelmed, we feel anxious, of course. Right? Now, another thing we have to think about, like, you know, when you bring things down to the 3D, you're like, okay, well, if I have a house that, you know, is sitting vacant for 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to fall down, right? And by the end of my journey, I was falling down. Like, I was always falling down. I was bumping into things. I was breaking bones. I was passing out. I was having seizures. Nothing in my entire life was working. How could it? Right? You can't drive your car from over there. Right? Your computer doesn't work with a thought. Why do we think that our body is going to work without the molecules of our life force? Right? And I think when we can really bring that down into the molecular universe, where like there's nothing here, even electricity, air, like nothing that isn't made up of molecules. Why do we think your essence or your psyche or your, right, astral body doesn't have molecules, right? And those molecules are your molecules, right? And they need to be here, right? They need to be here in this body, creating action for you in your life.
You know, the scientists who discovered there's 21 grams to our being that are unaccounted for when we die. That's been proven.
Well, and he gets a lot of flack for that. His name is McDougall, and he gets a lot of flack, but he became very intrigued with the idea that, you know, when a person passed away and they moved on to the next realm of existence, that there was a discrepancy between the body weight, the liquid loss, and the previous body weight. Like, there was always a discrepancy. And he was like, you know, is that the astral body? Is that, you know, our essence actually having weight? If it has weight, it has molecules. Now, what in diving into his research, you know, the problem that the world saw was that discrepancy was never the same. It was slightly different for every person, right? And why is that? If our astral body is leaving our physical body, and as the psychology world speaks, the fragmentation that happens, right? That means molecules are fragmenting out, right? And the actual weight of the astral body in the present time is not going to weigh what it did at birth, right? It's not. right? Now, when people say I've been stretched too thin, they literally are. Like, if your life force, I'm all over the place. Yeah, that's fragmentation. But like, you know, the idea of your life force being fragmented out like that, the molecules that are here today trying to operate your body are going to be stretched really thin, trying to get down to your toes and all the way up to the top of your head, since people passing out and falling down and their brain shorting out, right? So this is a real literal fix, right? Now, I would love for you, right, to grab more information by hopping into Amazon and Barnes and Noble and picking up your copies of The Chronicles of Tigwa and Turn Illness into Brilliance. Now, what's beautiful about The Chronicles of Tigwa, I think, is that we're witnessing from the outside a child through their eyes what they're going through in these complex situations of sex and violence and alcohol and, you know, life being completely unpredictable, right? And that you don't just get over it. And it's not just one thing. It's something happening every day, every other day, you know? They wake up not knowing, like, if tomorrow is a given. It's not, right? Like, they don't know. We don't know, right? And the amazing gifts that they're able to access to survive, right? Crazy? Maybe not. Maybe really, really brilliant, yeah? And Turn Illness into Brilliance takes us into, or dives into what we can do about it. How can it be fixed, right? Because it can be fixed. You do not have to live the rest of your life suffering from PTSD. You don't have to live your life coping and managing. Living proof, right?
Living proof.
My first near-death experience, I was 6 months old. Again at 9, yeah. And every moment in between. So if I can do it, you can do it. And we have so many people that are just having the most amazing results. So grab your copy and see how brilliant you are. Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Sydney, so much for joining together to create this synergy for Today I Choose and the Turn Illness into Brilliance podcast. I'm really grateful. And on behalf of myself and the Quantum Therapeutics team, we want to thank you for tuning into Turn Illness into Brilliance, where we turn problem into solution and illness into the unique brilliance that is you. Quantum Therapeutics for rapid results for resolution to C-PTSD, PTSD, and dissociation. Today, you can choose to schedule your call for freedom.